Imagine being trapped in a relentless downpour, where every raindrop seems to echo the whispers of unseen dangers. Rainy nights have a way of cloaking the world in mystery, making the ordinary seem sinister and the safe feel treacherous. Tonight, we'll dive into three chilling tales where stormy weather brought more than just rain. It brought terror. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're exploring the eerie side of rainy nights. These stories are filled with suspense, fear, and the unexplainable, guaranteed to keep you on the edge of your seat. So grab a blanket, maybe a cup of tea, and prepare yourself for these terrifying accounts of rainy night horror. Let's dive in. Story 1, The Man at the Window by Grace Albright. My name is Grace Albright, and this is the story of a stormy weekend that left me forever haunted. 2 years ago, I decided to spend a few days alone at my family's cabin in the woods. It was meant to be a peaceful retreat, a break from the chaos of city life. But what unfolded was anything but peaceful. The cabin was nestled deep in the woods, surrounded by towering pines and complete isolation. My parents had owned the property for decades, and we'd spent countless summers there. I thought I knew the place inside and out, but that weekend revealed a side of the cabin I never wanted to see. It began on a Friday afternoon. The sky was overcast, and a light drizzle accompanied my arrival. By the time I unpacked and settled in, the drizzle had transformed into a torrential downpour. The rain hammered against the roof, and the wind howled through the trees, creating an unsettling atmosphere. Still, I convinced myself it was just a storm, nothing to be afraid of. I spent the evening curled up on the couch with a book, the sound of rain providing a soothing backdrop. Around 9 p.m., the power went out. The sudden plunge into darkness startled me, but I managed to find a flashlight in the kitchen drawer. I lit a few candles and decided to call it an early night. As I lay in bed listening to the storm's relentless fury, I began to hear something else. At first it was faint, barely audible over the rain, but as I focused, it became unmistakable. A soft, rhythmic tapping. The sound was coming from the window across the room. My heart began to race as I sat up, straining to see through the rain-streaked glass. The tapping grew louder, more deliberate. It wasn't the random patter of rain, it was knuckles rapping against the pane. Grabbing my flashlight, I hesitated before shining it toward the window. For a moment, all I saw was the rain-slicked glass. Then a flash of lightning illuminated the figure of a man standing outside. He was soaked to the bone, his clothes clinging to his frame. His face was pale, almost ghostly, and his eyes locked onto mine with an intensity that sent a chill down my spine. "Who are you?" I shouted, my voice trembling. The man didn't respond. He just stood there, staring. Another flash of lightning, and he was gone. I scrambled out of bed and locked the door, my hands shaking. My mind raced with possibilities. Was he lost? A drifter seeking shelter? Or something far worse? I tried calling the police, but my phone had no signal. The storm had cut me off completely. Desperate, I grabbed a kitchen knife and huddled in the corner of the room, waiting for morning. The hours crawled by, and the storm showed no signs of letting up. Around 3 a.m., the tapping started again, this time on the back door. My stomach churned as I crept downstairs, flashlight in hand. Through the small window in the door, I saw him again. His face was pressed against the glass, his breath fogging it up. He was closer now, and his expression had changed. He was grinning, his teeth bared in a way that was more menacing than friendly. I backed away, my pulse racing. The man began pounding on the door, the sound echoing through the cabin. "Go away!" I screamed, clutching the knife tighter. Suddenly, the pounding stopped. The silence was deafening, broken only by the storm outside. I waited, holding my breath, but he didn't return. When daylight finally broke, I ventured outside cautiously. The rain had stopped, and the forest was eerily quiet. I searched for any sign of the man, but found nothing. No footprints, no evidence he'd ever been there. Later that day, I drove into town and reported the incident to the local authorities. They assured me they'd investigate, but I could tell they didn't take me seriously. To this day, I don't know who or what that man was. Was he a lost traveler seeking shelter? A predator who thought I was an easy target? Or something far more sinister? What haunts me most is his eyes. They weren't just looking at me, they were looking through me, as if he knew my deepest fears. I haven't been back to the cabin since, and I doubt I ever will. The memory of that rainy night lingers, a chilling reminder that some storms bring more than just rain. Story 2, The Stranger on the Road by Eleanor Prescott. My name is Eleanor Prescott, and I'll never forget the rainy night I drove through a storm and met a stranger I wish I hadn't. It was late autumn, and I was driving home from a work conference in a nearby city. The trip was supposed to be an easy 3-hour drive, but the storm turned it into a nightmare. Sheets of rain lashed against my windshield, and my wipers struggled to keep up. The headlights barely pierced the darkness, and the winding back roads I'd taken to avoid traffic felt more isolated with every passing mile. I was about halfway home when I saw him, a figure standing on the side of the road, drenched from head to toe. He was waving one arm, the other clutching what looked like a duffel bag. My first instinct was to keep driving. Picking up a hitchhiker in the middle of a storm didn't exactly scream good idea. But as I passed him, I glanced in the rearview mirror. He looked young, maybe in his early 20s, and his face had a desperate, almost pleading expression. Against my better judgment, I slowed down and pulled over. Rolling down the window just a crack, I called out, "Are you okay?" He nodded vigorously. "My car broke down a few miles back. Can you give me a ride to the nearest gas station?" I hesitated, every true crime podcast I'd ever listened to flashing through my mind. But the rain was relentless, and he looked utterly miserable. "All right," I said, unlocking the door. "Hop in." The man climbed in, shivering as he set his bag on the floor. "Thank you so much," he said, his voice hoarse. "I've been out there for hours." I nodded, trying to focus on the road. "The nearest gas station is about 20 minutes away. I'll drop you off there." We drove in silence for a while, the only sound the rain pounding on the car and the occasional rumble of thunder. Something about him felt off, though I couldn't put my finger on it. Maybe it was the way he kept glancing at me out of the corner of his eye, or the way he clutched his bag as if it contained something precious or dangerous. "So," I said, trying to break the tension, "what were you doing out here?" "Visiting family," he replied quickly, too quickly. "Got caught in the storm on my way back." His answer felt rehearsed, but I didn't press further. I just wanted to get to the gas station and be done with it. As we approached a particularly sharp curve, he suddenly spoke again. "You might want to slow down here. It's a bad spot for accidents." Startled, I eased off the gas. "How do you know that?" He hesitated. "I've driven this road a lot. It's dangerous in the rain." His tone was casual, but something about his words sent a chill down my spine. We rounded the curve, and I saw it. A car smashed into a tree, its front end crumpled like paper. My heart leapt into my throat as I pulled over. "Oh my God, is that your car?" The man didn't answer. Instead, he stared at the wreckage, his face unreadable. "Yeah," he said finally, "that's mine." I turned to him, alarmed. "But you said your car broke down a few miles back." He looked at me then, his expression cold and unnerving. "I did, didn't I?" Panic surged through me as I realized how alone we were. The nearest town was miles away, and the storm was still raging. My hand crept toward the door handle, but before I could make a move, he grabbed my wrist. "Relax," he said, his grip firm but not painful. "I just needed a ride. I'm not going to hurt you." Tears blurred my vision as I whispered, "Please, just let me go." After a long, tense moment, he released me. "Drive," he said. I did as he asked, my hands trembling on the wheel. We reached the gas station in silence, and as soon as I stopped, he grabbed his bag and got out. He didn't say thank you, didn't look back. He just walked into the rain and disappeared. I sat there for what felt like an eternity, trying to process what had just happened. When I finally regained enough composure to call the police, they told me something that still haunts me. The car I'd seen, it had been abandoned for days. Whoever that man was, he wasn't a stranded motorist. And to this day, I don't know what he wanted or why he let me go. Story 3, The Haunted Motel by Jason Mitchell. My name is Jason Mitchell, and this is the terrifying story of a night I'll never forget. It all started on a cold, rainy evening, just after Christmas. I was driving alone on a long stretch of highway, heading home after visiting family in a nearby town. The roads were slick with rain, and the night was as dark as a coal mine. I'd been driving for hours, and I was beginning to feel the weight of exhaustion. I noticed the lights of a small motel up ahead, nestled in the middle of nowhere. It was one of those old roadside motels with a neon sign flickering in the rain. The kind of place you only stop at when you've been driving for too long and need a place to rest. I pulled into the parking lot, grateful for the opportunity to get out of the car and stretch my legs. As I approached the front desk, I noticed something strange. The motel seemed empty. There was no one in the lobby, no sounds of activity coming from the rooms. The only noise was the relentless patter of rain against the windows. I rang the bell on the counter. After a few moments, an elderly woman appeared from behind a door, her face lined with age but her eyes sharp and alert. "Can I help you?" she asked in a voice that seemed to echo in the empty room. "I need a room for the night," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. She nodded slowly as if she had been expecting me. "Room 7, she said, handing me a key. "It's just down the hall." I thanked her and made my way to the room. As I passed the other rooms, I couldn't help but notice that the windows were all dark, no lights shining from inside. It was almost as if the motel was abandoned, save for the elderly woman at the front desk. When I entered room 7, I immediately felt a chill. The air inside was musty, the room dimly lit by a single lamp. The furniture was old and worn, and the bed looked like it hadn't been touched in years. But I was tired, and I didn't care. I dropped my bags and went straight to the bed. I tried to sleep, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. Every creak of the building, every gust of wind rattling the windows, seemed amplified in the silence of the room. It felt like I was being watched. Around 2 a.m., I was jolted awake by a loud bang. It came from the hallway, followed by the sound of footsteps. My heart raced as I sat up, straining to listen. The footsteps were slow, deliberate, and they seemed to be getting closer. I glanced at the door, my mind racing. Was someone else staying in the motel? Or was it just my imagination? I waited, holding my breath, but the footsteps stopped right outside my door. The silence that followed was deafening. After what felt like an eternity, I mustered the courage to get up and check the peephole. But when I looked through it, I saw nothing. The hallway was empty. My mind was playing tricks on me, I told myself. I went back to bed, but sleep didn't come easily. The next morning I went to check out. The elderly woman was at the desk again, as if she had never moved. "How was your stay?" she asked, her voice soft and sweet. I hesitated before replying. "It was fine, but I heard some strange noises last night. Was anyone else staying here?" She smiled, but there was something unsettling about it. "No, you're the only guest." I frowned, confused. "But I heard footsteps in the hallway. It sounded like someone was walking right outside my door." Her smile faltered for just a moment before she spoke again. "There's no one else here, dear. No one has stayed here for years." I was about to ask her more questions, but something about her demeanor made me stop. I quickly paid and left, my thoughts racing. I couldn't shake the feeling that the motel had a history, a dark past that I had stumbled into. As I got into my car and drove away, I glanced in the rearview mirror. The motel was still there, standing tall in the rain, but it looked different now. The lights flickered again, and for a split second, I thought I saw someone standing in one of the windows. But when I blinked, the window was empty. I never went back to that motel. But to this day, I wonder if I was the only one who ever truly checked out. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more creepy stories. Which of these stories gave you a chilling experience? Let us know. Until next time, stay curious, stay safe, and remember, sometimes the scariest stories are the ones that are real.